Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that. I really should.
Can you control another person with your mind? Researchers at the University of Washington say they've done just that. This video posted on the lab team's website shows the researchers hooked up to electrical brain signaling caps. While watching a cannon-firing video game, one team member imagines his own finger flicking during the game.
Yes!
He's able to trigger that motion in his partner.
Brain control beats mind control any day of the week, because the brain tells the mind what to do.
A Duke University neuroscientist responded to the experiment, saying it's not a true brain-to-brain interface. It's like using a phone signal to trigger a magnetic jolt to the brain.
Force can have a strong influence on the weak-minded.
The researchers plan to publish the result of these experiments in a scientific journal.
During the Cold War, mind control became an active area of research. Brainwashing proved to be a blunt tool, but brain surgery offered a more focused result. In the mid-1960s, a procedure developed by Dr. Jose Delgado took psychosurgery to a whole new level.
I was continually thinking about the brain, about the possibility to do research, about the possibility to go inside, in the depth of the brain.
Rather than cutting things out of the brain, as Walter Freeman had done, Delgado decided the best thing to do was to insert something into the brain. At Yale, Delgado became fascinated by the idea that electrodes implanted in animals' brains could control aggressive behavior. In the summer of 1964, to perform a truly audacious stunt, he chose not a rat nor a mouse, but a bull.
The owner, he said, well, you can do that with cats and monkeys, you can do that with bulls, can you? Well, I don't know. Let's try. Would you allow me to place electrodes in one of your brave bulls? Sure, do that, no problem. But you will not be able to pacify him. I don't know, maybe not. Let's try.
Dr. Delgado really did intend to stop an animal specially bred to be aggressive in its tracks. This footage shows Dr. Delgado in action.
We anesthetized the animal. There we implanted electrodes in the head. Well, next day the bull was normal. Then the bull was just going around charging against anybody who could be in the bull ring. It's not completely normal. Then I thought, well, I know a little about bullfighting, so I'm going to test this by myself.
Delgado leapt into the ring with an extremely dangerous animal, armed with nothing but a remote control. He was betting his life that this would work.
The animal was a few feet away. I pushed a button in the radio simulator and the animal really stopped completely. It was frightening, but it was an experiment. And so when the experiment was over, the bull was in very good health and I was in very good health also. So no problem.
Jose Delgado was jubilant and saw the success of his experiment as just the beginning.
That took us to another big step. If electrodes implanted in animals are possible, can we implant electrodes in the human brain?
To many people, this vision of brain manipulation was not thrilling. It was downright terrifying.
It presented a nightmarish future where anyone who threatened the state could be controlled. Far-fetched? Well, in 1970, researchers from Harvard Medical School suggested using psychosurgery on black rioters, while others suggested putting implants into gay men to turn them straight. Ethical approval proved impossible. Funding for brain implant research fizzled out. But the story of implants wasn't over.
What we've been doing is actually guiding him wirelessly by sending signals from a laptop computer to his brain. And we also have a camera on his backpack so that we can see the world from the way the rat sees it.
Chapin has gained control over the rat's decisions by tapping directly into its brain. A radio signal from the computer stimulates the brain areas that are connected to the whiskers. When they stimulate the left whisker, the rat turns left. Stimulate the right, the rat turns right. It does have a choice, but if it does as asked, the rat is rewarded with a hit to the pleasure center of the brain.
He needs to get some walking. He needs to lose some weight. Hey, you need to be doing aerobics, guy.
By mastering the mind of a rat, Chapin believes he is taking a small step towards cracking the enormous challenge ahead.
The brain is the most important thing we have, and it's the least understood thing that we have. It's going to reveal itself slowly in a myriad of different ways, just as this is revealing something about it.
Are pacemakers hackable? Conspiracy theorists are having a heyday over the death of a computer hacker who was about to give a speech on just such a thing. Is it even possible? We sent Les Trent looking for answers.
Professional hacker Barnaby Jack said it's possible, and he was set to reveal how at a Las Vegas hacking convention. But in a shocking twist, just a week before the convention, the 35-year-old hacking expert was found dead by his girlfriend in his San Francisco home. As the medical examiner investigates the cause of death, police say they don't suspect foul play. But the internet has lit up with conspiracy theories. Barnaby Jack has been called the ethical hacker and exposed computer vulnerabilities to help corporations.
As a consumer, we should all be aware that anything that is wireless or anything connected to the internet in some way, shape, or form can in fact be hacked.
At this year's convention, he was ready to shock the world with his pacemaker demonstration. But is it really possible? Dr. Richard Besser is ABC News chief medical editor and the author of the book, Tell Me the Truth, Doctor.
At this point, there's no evidence that anyone has ever had harm or died from someone hacking into a pacemaker. But it's a real concern that it could happen.
Even though the risk is low, the Food and Drug Administration is asking manufacturers to beef up security after researchers reported password vulnerability affecting 300 types of medical devices. The FDA issued this statement. The FDA is not aware of any patient injuries or deaths associated with these incidents, nor do we have any indication that any specific devices or systems in clinical use have been purposely targeted at this time.
Hacking in all areas of our life is getting more and more sophisticated. So this is an area where it's so important they put in controls so it doesn't happen.
Roughly 3 million Americans have pacemakers.
It is time to wake up, America. These ID cards are not about defeating terrorism, but they are all about controlling the American people. I arranged an interview with Catherine Albrecht, a leading authority on the RFID chip. Her book entitled Spy Chips is the definitive book on this subject. I wanted to find out just how dangerous these chips are to our liberties.
RFID is a technology that uses tiny computer chips the size of a grain of sand or even smaller, hooked up to miniature antennas to transmit information about items at a distance. The latest technology for identifying people at the point of sale, for identifying people when they make purchases, is actually the implantable chip that you can actually embed directly into human flesh. It's a tiny glass capsule about the size of a grain of rice. It contains an RFID computer chip with a coiled antenna, and it can transmit information also at a distance.
Everyone who refused to worship the idol of the beast was put to death. All people were forced to put a mark on their right hand or forehead. Whether they were powerful or weak, rich or poor, free people or slaves, they all had to have this mark, or else they could not buy or sell anything. This mark stood for the name of the beast and for the number of its name. You need wisdom to understand the number of the beast. But if you are smart enough, you can figure this out. Its number is 666, and it stands for a person.
The hybrid of the two of these products, being Digital Angel and Verichip, is what we call PLD. PLD should be in prototype form by the end of this year, by December of 2002.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers in a brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
After 9/11, I was really concerned with the security of my family.
In the 1960s, Professor Jose Delgado took a normally hostile bull and implanted electrodes into its brain. Electrodes that could be activated by a radio transmitter. His objective was to see if stimulation of the bull's midbrain could short-circuit the rage signals, stopping the bull before it reached the matador. After the bull had recovered from the implantation and in mid-charge, the button was pressed. The bull's aggression ceased instantly. A clearer experiment was performed with cats. In this classic example, the hypothalamus, the rhythm maker, was implanted with electrodes. Could it be responsible not just for rhythms, but also for rage? The switch is turned. Then the switch is turned off.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one-world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is getting me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has the purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one-world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intention.